Hey, what is going on, everybody, man? Hope you guys are all doing very well out there, wherever you are, whatever is going on. There's a lot going on these days. Listen, I wanted to talk to my creatives out there, man. Everybody who considers themselves a creative, there's a known problem amongst creatives. And that known problem is we have a hard time selling. Now, maybe you identify with that, maybe you don't, but over the course of dealing with creatives and being a creative person myself, even I myself at times have struggled with selling. And that's crazy because I actually have over 15 years of sales experience. That's right. I was involved in sales for quite some time, over 15 years. Before doing marketing and media type stuff, I was doing sales. And it's something that I had to learn, I had to grow into. There were some things that I think that, as a creative individual, I think there's some things that we struggle with, especially when it relates to our own creativity. And so today I wanted to talk to you about three areas that creatives have a hard time in selling. Now, no matter who you are, if you're trying to build a business or anything you're trying to sell, or you're just trying to create a business, period, you got to sell. Like, it doesn't matter who you are or what you got going on. You have to learn the art of selling. Now, the interesting thing about selling, coming from a sales background, is that sales is not necessarily just trying to get somebody to give you money for something that they don't want, right? Like that's what we all kind of feel like. First things first, we need to kind of define what selling actually is, because for a lot of us, man, we got a bad experience with selling, and therefore we kind of have this negative connotation with it. And when you start talking about selling, we're kind of like, I don't really know if I want to do that. I'm not really trying to sell. I'm not trying to be one of those guys. We think about that used car salesman who is trying to get us to buy that junk car, for 3 times more than what it's worth, but it got some cool rims on it. Like, we think about hustlers. We think about, that's kind of what comes to the mind when we think about selling, but it's actually not. That's not at all what selling is. The real nature of selling is providing a solution that is valuable to the person, that they're willing to pay a some amount of money for, right? And it's not even really, actually selling is not even really the transferring of money. It's more of the transferring of agreement, because you can sell things for bartering or trading. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be money, but it's providing value. Okay. So now that we kind of got that out of the way, I think everybody would agree with that listen, selling isn't bad. And if you want to build any kind of business, doesn't matter what it is, or you're trying to get anybody on board with any particular cause that you got going on, anything that's important to you, then it's going to require a little bit of selling, right? You're going to have to sell the vision. You're going to have to sell the movement, the mission. You're going to have to operate in selling to some degree, and you got to learn how to do it. Okay. So now that I set kind of the framework, I wanted to talk to you about 3 areas. These 3 areas where creative people in particular get stuck, man, and they have such a hard time selling. And it's really these 3 areas that are causing the biggest problems that I see to them. Okay. So let's get right into it. What is the first area? The first area that is causing a creative person to get stuck? That area is they're identifying too much with being an artist. Okay. So let me break it down for you, right? So as a creative person, we identify as artists. We identify as creating a work of art that is a part of us. It's an extension of who we are. And therefore, when we have a difficult time putting a price on that, we have a difficult time seeing what that could be of value to somebody else. We're too attached to it. And that's one of the biggest problems I see with creative people, is they don't know how to sell because they're too much of an artist. Either their prices are like through the roof, where it's like, come on, bro. Like, I get it. You think that painting or whatever is worth, 10 grand. It's just not. Like, we all seen those people. We all have known those people where it's like the numbers are inflated. They don't have any sense of like reality when it comes to their art, because to them, they put their whole passion behind it. They put their whole energy behind it. Right. But in reality, it's like, bro, it's not worth that. Right. So That's the problem. They're an artist. They're an artist. They're struggling with knowing how to price things, with how to sell things. Sometimes they don't want to sell things because they're too connected to it, right? And maybe you've seen that too, where it's just somebody has a hard time letting go of something because, man, it's like they're an artist. It's like a piece of who they are. It's their identity, right? Or maybe, and this is a lot of people as well, they're an artist, but they're super critical of themselves. And they're like, man, nobody's going to want to buy this, man. I still got so many things to do. I got so much ways to grow. Like, nobody is going to buy this, right? Nobody's going to buy it, man. I suck. You know what I mean? Like, those people, man, you've seen them, and maybe you identify with that. I know that there's been times for sure for me that I've identified with that, where I've been like, man, I don't know if I'm really good enough. As artists, we're striving to grow. We're striving to get better, to advance, to do all kind of things. And, maybe we're not exactly where we feel we want to be. And because of that, we could undervalue what it is that we do. All right. So that's one thing that could be an issue. All right. So being an artist is much different than being a creator. Okay. But being an artist can cause you to have a difficulty in your ability to sell. All right. So excuse me, the next one is you haven't quite learned how to solve other people's problems. When it comes to selling, like we talked about in the beginning, when it comes to selling, you're providing something of value for it in exchange for something else of value, right? Whether that's money or that's time or attention or bartering, another type of service. If you cannot place a value or create a value, then you're going to have a very difficult time selling. That's just a fact, because one of the things that they teach you in selling is that you don't sell the features, you sell the benefits. Okay. It's not about, hey man, I got this cool thing. It's got this, I got this nice mouse pad right here and it's ultra shiny and, it's got an on and off button and it's super cool and it's black and it's like super sleek. It's like, that's not how you sell something. The way that you really sell something is, listen, I got this mouse and the battery lasts for 5 days, which means you'll never have to change your battery, as much as you have to now. See, it's the benefits. It's like, what, this thing glides so smooth that when you're editing your videos, it'll just glide from all the way across the screen to all the way across the screen. Like, it's so effortless. It's so much fun to use. This mouse right here gives me so much joy just to use. It makes me want to edit videos because of how smooth it works. See, that's a benefit. A feature is, oh, it's shiny, it's nice, there's an on and off switch. Okay. But the benefit is what it actually does for you. So, when you're selling, you have to learn how to be able to solve other people's problems. And this is one of the biggest areas I see with people is that creatives specifically, is that they don't really know how to create the value for somebody else. They may know how to create or solve the problems for themselves, but they don't really know how to package that in a way that actually makes it valuable for somebody else. And if you cannot bridge that gap, if you cannot connect those dots, you're not going to be able to sell anything. Listen, at the end of the day, like, whatever you create, that's cool. That's amazing. People will, applaud you for that. But listen, they're all wanting to know the same thing. How is that going to help me? What is that doing for me? How does that make my life better? Right? If I'm like, hey, listen, I can do a video for you. Let me shoot a video for you. Okay, cool. Like, what's that going to do for me? Right? But it's going to be a super nice, clean, super 4K, 10K high quality video. Okay, great. Well, what's it going to do for me? No, but listen though, it's going to have super dope B-roll that is going to look like a Hollywood film. Okay, great. But what is that going to do for me? See, unless I can connect those two dots where I can show somebody what it's going to do for them, I'm never going to be able to sell that. And if I am able to sell that, let's just say in that event, I am able to sell it, I'm not going to be able to really get much for it, because it is the ability to solve other people's problems that causes your value to go up. So if the more problems you could solve, or the bigger problem you can solve, the more you can charge for that service or whatever it is that you create. So this is important. And this is something that I see with a lot of creative people is I see a lot of creative people don't really know how to think in these kind of terms. They think more in terms of, like what it is that I do. And I get that. It's going back to that artist thing, right? Like, what is it that I do? But the way we need to look at this thing is what do I do and what problems do I solve for other people? It could be something as simple as enjoyment. Man, I create memories or laughs or relaxation or detachment from everything that's the stressful aspects of life. Whatever it is, you got to have something that's solving another person's problem. Okay, and here's the last one. Here's the last one that I'll just touch on for a minute. And this causes a lot of problems with creatives' ability to sell. And that is the ability to be able to value feedback, value criticism, and actually receive it and implement on it and make changes on it. Too many creative people, man, because once again, it's going back to that artist thing. When we get criticized, we think that it's like an attack against our identity. Like you just like assaulted my mama. Like that's like, you know what I mean? Like it's like so personal to us. When somebody goes like, I didn't really like that video or that song wasn't, really. You're like, what? What do you mean? And then they'll say something like, oh, that one thing, just that instrument that you got in there. And you're like, what? That's my favorite thing. That makes the whole thing. Like I did it all just for that. You know what I mean? Like you'll get all defensive and have a hard time receiving that criticism. When the reality is you'll be much better off if you take that criticism and you learn to implement off of it. Oh, what about that instrument didn't you like? You know what, man? I didn't like how it was kept on going through the whole song. Okay. So do you think if I just left it in the hook, that might be better? Oh, yeah, I think so. I think it worked really well with the hook. Just, that part where you were singing, I didn't like it in there. It just, okay, I'm going to make a note of that. Next time you show it to somebody else, you go, hey, listen, what do you think about that instrument in there that's kind of going through that? What's your thoughts on that? You know what? Now that I think about it, it kind of sounds a little annoying. What do you think if I just left it in the hook? You think that, see, you start to implement, you start to iterate, you start to get better off of the feedback. If you can't do that as a creative, listen, nobody's going to want to work with you. You're not going to be able to sell your services because you're going to tell people what you think that they want. You're not going to be able to sell anything because it's not about them. It's about you. And that's exactly what you don't want it to be about, And I think that's one of the biggest struggles for creatives, man, is we take so much pride and there's so much identity that is connected into what we create. And I get it. I understand. You put a lot of work in there. You put a lot of effort. You poured your soul in there, right? Like nobody's seen the late nights, 2 a.m. You were working on that thing, right? But you worked on it. You made it. You created it. And now you're ready to release it or to sell it or to whatever it is. And all of a sudden, here comes somebody just, in 1 minute, just dropping a criticism on it, right? That could be really, really hard to take. But listen, you got to learn how to get over that. You got to learn how to take that correction and make changes off of it, implement off of it, because it's that very reason that is going to provide you the value. When you're able to do that, that's how you're actually able to build the value amongst whatever it is that you're selling. And once again, going back to sales, that's what we're doing. So, man, listen, sales is an integral part of any business. You got to have sales. You got to be able to sell your craft, whatever it is that you do, even if it's just doing YouTube and you're trying to get more subscribers, right? That's a sale. That's a transaction that's taking place. You're asking somebody for something in return for something else. You're selling them something. Hey, subscribe to my channel, right? And I'm going to provide you with way more content on how to do this or how to do that or whatever. So if that's what everything is the basis of selling, which it is for any type of business, then you need to learn how to overcome some of these pitfalls. And for creative people, for some reason, I've dealt and worked with a lot of different personality types and people working in sales for over 15 years. And it's the creative people that I see that have some of the biggest struggles. And even if I look at my creative friends and even myself, even with the sales experience, sometimes I still have a difficult time with some of these things. And so, man, I believe that if you can kind of get these things dialed in, you'll be on your way to selling. You'll be on your way to providing a value, a mutually understood value, right? Like something that you're not having to try to, con somebody into it. Like it'll be something that somebody will want and that will solve a real need in their life. And you'll be able to grow your creative business. And that's ultimately the heart of this message, man. I want to see more people like myself make a living off of doing what it is that they love. Man, continue to share your story, guys. I hope that encourages you. Let me know in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. I appreciate it. Till next time.